everyone. Welcome back to Cincinnati Zoo Tales. I'm Jenna.
And I'm Mark. Thanks to everyone for tuning in for yet another episode. Jenna, I'm really excited. We've got a fun episode today. We're talking about one of our maybe lesser known animals here at the Cincinnati Zoo, but a very charismatic, beautiful animal nonetheless. We're talking about okapis. So we're being joined by Renee Carpenter. Renee is a senior keeper at the Veldt. So thank you so much for taking the time to join us today. We're excited to talk to you.
Oh, absolutely. Thanks for having me.
I feel like you are the resident okapi expert here and definitely the primary trainer, and you work with them the most, correct?
Yeah, for sure. I've been, at the Veldt with okapi for, we didn't have okapi when I first started here, but probably 15 years they've been over at the Veldt space now.
That's cool. I think it's cool to kind of specialize. I'm always torn between wanting to know everything about all the animals and then knowing actually being an expert in one animal. But we want to hear...
expert might be a stretch, Jenna, but I know some things.
You're just humble, but you're an expert.
But we'll start off with you, actually. How did you get into zookeeping? Did you think you wanted to be a zookeeper from a young age, or where did all of that begin?
Oh my gosh. Well, if we're going to go way back... ever since I was a little kid, I loved animals. I grew up out in the country. We had a little mini farm, so a couple beef cattle and rabbits and chickens and the things. So I always loved animals and was always really interested. I remember going to the library weekly with my family and checking out all the books, all the animals. That's all I wanted. And I would wear no clothes unless it had animal something on it. It was a necessity. So, that was definitely always a passion. And then, I guess, like with a lot of us that are in this field now, it went different avenues. So, as I got older, I was infatuated with big cats. And then, I had the marine biologist phase.
Didn't we all?
I did. I thought about it for a hot second, and then I'm like, out on the open ocean, I don't know about my tummy with that.
Same here.
And then I think I just kind of circled back with, growing up, and I really liked the cattle and, other friends that had livestock and stuff. They're just such sweet animals. I got through high school. I knew I had to get a degree to do what we do. Mm-hmm. So I did that and, just started applying everywhere like we all do in the very beginning. And it's such a tough field to get into. So I ended up, going to Virginia for a time and had a great experience down there, free range, hoof stock, a couple 100-acre type space, and after that ended up coming here, and I've been here going on 20 years.
Wow.
That's
but
awesome.
You're not from, are you from Cincinnati?
No.
Okay.
No. Northwest Ohio.
Okay.
So up around Wapakoneta.
Okay. Awesome.
And you do work in the Veldt, so you guys have more. We're going to talk about mostly okapi today, but you guys do have more than just okapi. Will you talk about the habitat that you work at and kind of the broader sense of the animals you work with?
Sure, yeah. So our collection, in the time that I've been here has changed a lot. We've gone through different cycles of things. When I first started, we had a bunch of giant eland, and then we moved into a Sahelo-Sahara situation with North African themed things, like your scimitar horned oryx and things of that nature, with a great conservation value. And then where we are presently, we have black rhino, okapi, of course, eastern mountain bongo. We have the Vissian Morty pigs, which we adopted from when Wildlife Canyon became Rue Valley. And then our zebra, did I say that?
No,
of course, you have to have zebra. So we have common plain zebra, and we've had grevies in the past that went along with that North African theme.
were the giant eland amazing? I remember the first time I ever saw one. They were giant, literally, like the biggest.
Yeah. I mean, a giant eland or derby eland are the largest antelope in the world. So we had, we had 15.
Oh my gosh!
Wow.
In a herd when I started. So I don't know if we were plus or minus that in times before that. But in the veldt, if folks have grown up around here and seen the veldt, it's gone through many transformations over the years. And so that space over towards Bird Show used to be a wide open space, and you had all these eland, and you had zebra then on the side, and you had different birds mixed in with the eland. But those eland, 1,500 pounds.
It's amazing.
It's like the size of a giraffe.
Yeah.
Like, that is massive.
Such a large number of them. And I've worked with common eland as well. Not nearly as impressive, but still pretty big. So now we've kind of, gone into more of, there fortunately isn't a huge conservation issue with giant eland. So we've kind of pivoted, okapi, eastern mountain bongo, huge conservation value with those species. So I'm super happy to be a part of that, and that's kind of like my primary focus is with the okapi and the eastern mountain bongo at this point.
Awesome. So can you describe what okapi look like for the listeners? I don't think everyone knows what an okapi looks like.
I don't think so either. That's what, like, you hear about people finding out what an okapi is, and they think it's like a fake animal.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah. Oh, goodness. Being out in habitat, doing different things with them, I hear lots of comments from the public, and I mean, the gamut of what folks think that they are. And most of the time I can see, like, okay, I see how you got there. But in all actuality, they're, a giraffe. They're like a short jungle giraffe.
Mm-hmm.
Which is so wild, though, because they don't look... I mean, their coloration and everything definitely does not look like a giraffe.
Sure.
But they are their closest relatives.
They are. The only relative.
Oh,
Yeah.
well, yeah.
Yeah, so there's... with antelope and equine, there's tons of different species in those families, and giraffe, they just have two. And historically speaking, okapi have been around longer than modern day giraffe. So they're a pretty ancient species. One of the oldest living terrestrial
I did not know
mammals.
that. Very
That's
cool.
interesting. I feel like when you can most see the resemblance is like if you just look at their head.
Yes.
Like their heads, I think their
Yeah.
heads are really similar in like size and shape.
Especially if you see a male,
Mm.
So the males have the little ossicones, the little horns that are velvet covered on their heads like a giraffe. The females, they just have little bumps, little hair whorls.
Little nubs.
So you can't, but the girls are bigger, which is another oddity of them. But,
that is interesting. I didn't realize that. That is interesting.
Yeah, typically the females will outweigh a male by a few hundred pounds.
So how much will you tell everyone how much they usually do weigh?
We've been very fortunate here in Cincinnati. We have like a crazy awesome bloodline, and we produce giant okapi. So there, the range can be anywhere from 500 to upper sevens, and we're in the upper sevens.
Awesome.
With our girls. So yeah.
That's awesome. Will you tell people how many okapi we have here, their names, just a little bit about each one of them?
Okay, yeah. So currently on zoo grounds, well, let me start off zoo grounds. So we have a pair, and they have had 4 offspring now. So they've been, okapi are part of SSP, Species Survival Program, since they're an endangered species. And our 2 have been recommended to breed or be partners for a long time now. Mm-hmm. So Caloro, our male, he came to us from White Oak Conservation, and he actually currently lives out at our Mass Farm property. They are very solitary animals, so actually it has worked out great for everyone concerned. He has his time out there at the farm doing his man thing. And, you know, he comes to the city for a good time occasionally. You know, he hangs out for a couple months and
goes on a couple dates while he's here.
You know, some meet and greets occur, and you know, he goes back out to the farm and lives his best life. So that's what Caloro does.
He's got it made, man.
He does have it made, and they've got a great spot for him out there at Mass Farm. It's not open to the public, so he just does all the okapi things out there. And then Kavua, our adult female, it's here on grounds. She was born here. So I've taken care of her since she was born. She's 15. Yeah, she's 15 now. And then she's got a new little one, Maconzi, and he'll be 2 months this Saturday.
I was going to say, his birthday was December 17th?
Yeah.
Okay, because when we record these, they don't always come out like right away. So this could be like March or so when this comes out, but he might be like 3 or 4 months old, but he was born in December. So, okay, you mentioned we have an adult male, an adult female, and now we have a calf Maconzi. And we kind of mentioned what they look like, but we got off track. They have stripes on their rear end that almost resemble like a zebra stripe in a way. So I think that's what kind of confuses people because giraffe obviously
I guess
don't
because
have...
it's black and white.
Yes,
So like it's a zebra.
Right. But then would you describe their color as like a deep, like, what
it's a beautiful chestnut.
Chestnut?
Jenna.
Okay.
Chestnut. That's the best description I've heard.
Because
Chestnut.
like, it's not red, but it's kind of,
Yes, a beautiful chestnut for the ladies.
Okay.
And the boys are a deeper color, so almost into black.
Okay.
Fully. Yeah.
And I feel like they have a velvety look and feel, correct?
Oh, absolutely.
Like,
yeah, so they feel like oily velvet.
Yes, yeah.
So if you rub on an okapi, which I often do on a daily basis, just for fun, you know, you'll get, your hands will be covered in this oil. I mean, sometimes I condition my leather gloves. It's, you know, it's fine. She enjoys it. You know, I get a benefit. It's all good. But yeah, they are, I guess, an odd-looking animal. They're gorgeous, though.
Yes,
They're
they
like
are
the
gorgeous.
supermodels of the hoofstock world.
They are.
Right?
They really are gorgeous. Their coloration, they've got those long legs. They're beautiful.
Yes.
What do you think is like the most common? You say you hear a lot of comments from guests, like mistaking an okapi from something else. I'm just curious, what is the most common mistake you hear?
Well, I mean, they think it's some sort of zebra.
Okay.
I mean, that's definitely the most common just because of the striped hiney.
Yeah.
And then we'll talk about, well, you know, lots of animals have stripes. The bongo that are right next door, neighbors to the okapi, they have stripes. Tigers have stripes. Zebras have stripes. You know, just all for the camouflage in different ways.
Right, in different reasons than zebra. But will you describe like where okapi come from and how this coloration and those stripes kind of might make sense?
Yeah, so okapi, they are a very specialized animal, and they come from the heart of Africa. So they are only found in the DRC, the Democratic Republic of Congo, and within that, only in the Ituri forest, which is kind of like in the northeastern part of
Is
the
that
Congo.
how it's always been, or is it just because of habitat loss?
I don't know that for sure, but any historical guesses are pretty much that's where they're from. They're just a really specialized animal. So it's just super, super dense jungle, which being a part of the giraffe family, obviously you can't be big and tall and huge and get through super dense jungle. And that goes back to the coloration. So, you know, where they come from, it's so dense. Like, it's hard to imagine. And I've not been there before, but it's hard to imagine. It's so densely covered that it's dark during the day.
Wow.
In most places, unless you come to a clearing that an elephant has helped keep open or something like that. But they spend all their time, pretty much in that super dense jungle. You have the dappling of the light coming through that complete cover canopy, which, if you watch camera trap footage, which Okapi Conservation Project has some of that now. If it were in black and white, and they don't move, they almost disappear.
Wow. I want to look that up.
Yeah, because it's so dark at the forest floor where they're at. Yeah.
I wanted to hear more about their personalities and tell us, kind of like what the baby's like, what Kavua's like,
So, they've all been different. So Kaloro, he's the strong, manly type.
Okay.
When he first came to us from White Oak, he was young. He was only about 2 years old or 2.5, something like that. But eventually we won him over. They have it's a little bit different situation down there. They're out on acreage and so managed a little bit differently. And so he came to learn how nice it is to get scratches and all the things. So
a little more hands-on here.
Oh, yeah. But awesome management both ways, just different.
Right.
So he's the strong, manly type. He gets that, strong Muppet face from time to time, and a little bit stronger-willed. And then Kavua, she was born here. Like I said, I've worked with her since she was born. So super tractable. Although, back then we didn't do near what we do now with our collection. So as far as operant conditioning and, training for certain behaviors, just take really good care of them. So some of those things started later on. But she's been a willing participant. She enjoys her treats very, very much. And she seems to enjoy, I like to think that she enjoys our cuddle time.
Yeah, I bet she does.
I know I do.
Yes.
But she, she'll lean into those scratches, so I feel like it's reciprocated. I'm
sure she could tell you if she didn't like it, considering she's about 700 pounds.
Yeah, they definitely have their ways of that. Now, this kiddo, so he's just coming into being 2 months. So after 2.5 or so months, they stop nesting, and I'm going to get into a whole different zone of conversation here with that. But so right now we're just sharing some space, making eye contact. He's deciding, what are you? What is your purpose here?
That's so interesting. So even though his mother is really tractable, he's still kind of, weary of you.
Oh, sure.
Okay.
Sure. Yeah, he, and I'll stand with her and be rubbing on her, and he's like, what are you doing? How are you a benefit to me in this point of time? And the answer, I'm not.
Yeah.
So he's not on solids. He's not wanting scratches. He gets all the attention he needs from mom and gets all the milk he needs. And then he goes and he sits in his nest all day long.
So you said nesting. I never would have thought of that as a word for an antelope, or not antelope, but a giraffe species. So is it basically the mothers would kind of leave and forage throughout the day, and the babies would nest or be...
Yeah, exactly. To compare
deer?
it, compare it a little bit to deer. Sometimes people come across little fawns and they're like, "Oh my gosh, where's your mom?" But it's okay, leave it alone. So same thing with okapi. In case you come across one,
if you're in the DRC,
just leave it be. Yes. It's fine. But they're heavy nesters, so they don't build a nest like a bird, right? I actually built it for him in a corner that's secluded from other things. So that's just their one of their major defense mechanisms. So kiddo will go and stay in the quote unquote nest, just a space that he stays in. Mom's milk is 100% absorbable for the first couple months, so they don't defecate.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
That's amazing.
That's incredible.
Are there any other animals that do that? I don't know. I've never heard of that.
That I know of.
That is incredible.
So, we're waiting with bated breath for that.
Oh my
first
gosh,
poop.
that's crazy.
So and then after they do that, then they start moving around, following mom more, and then we can start developing our relationship a little bit more. But right now, he just wants to. He does what he's supposed to do.
Okay.
He nests tight. I've had calves of hers in previous years that did not. They were like, no, I don't need to.
Yeah.
Let's just go do things.
Yeah.
But this guy, he's following all the rules. He's staying in his nest, which makes it, by the way, really difficult for our photographers and
that makes sense.
people.
Yeah.
Because it's super secluded and perfect for okapi.
Yes.
Not so perfect for social media.
Right.
But, that's okay.
We'll see more of him soon, I'm sure.
It's a good trade-off.
Yeah.
So, he just kind of hangs back there. Mom goes and does her thing. They typically come together, a couple times a day. And she'll, from what research says, I don't know because I can't hear it, but they speak to each other infrasonically. So some other animals can do that too, but that's below what we can hear.
Yeah.
So it's also below what leopards can hear, which is their only natural predator. So again, by design, one of those defense mechanisms.
Yeah, that's an
Did
incredible
you know
adaptation.
all of this? I'm blown away by how much I didn't know.
I've heard about the
okapi.
communication before. I've heard that they can communicate below a frequency that we can hear. That's wild.
Okay, can you imagine being the first zookeeper that has always hoped when a baby's born, you usually look for urination and defecation to show signs
right.
of that they're healthy and stuff.
There
can
was
you imagine,
definitely a learning curve for
I'm
okapi.
sure. Yes, there had to have been.
Yep. Yep.
This goes for a lot of animals, but I'm also just always the fact that non-human or primate babies will just sit and wait for their mom to come back, and the moms can just go off and trust that they're not going to get themselves hurt.
She doesn't even do that. The best okapi mom cares not. So meaning, I don't really mean they do what they're supposed to do by design for their own good and best welfare. So she will call him away from the nest to her. Oh. So, because we're not going to reveal where that space is, right?
Wow.
Yeah, so he's got to, he'll hear mom, and infrasonic vocalizations travel farther than the frequencies that we can hear. So I've never been hanging out in the Congo and seeing this go down, but I assume, there's a little bit of a distance there.
Yeah.
Because she's not going to want to give away the location exactly.
That's pretty incredible. Yeah.
Jenna, try that at home with Lincoln.
Right.
Just leave him be for 6 hours.
I can't leave him if the room's quiet next to me for 3 minutes. I'm like, what's he doing? And then he's entertaining himself. I'm like, I had to sneak out so he continues doing that. Where, these moms, they just leave and their babies do exactly.
She'll go off for hours and do her thing, and then, they'll come together. Sometimes I'll hear her chuffing. They do have vocalizations that we can hear, and like I mentioned, a chuff, and sometimes she'll be doing that, and then he's like, oh, okay. Cool. So I know that she was talking to him because he ended up
but she
out.
didn't necessarily need to hide it because she didn't feel like there's anything to hide. That's very cool.
I don't know, maybe someday it would be, I'm sure there's technology available that we could record.
That'd be so cool.
That'd be interesting.
I think a long time ago there was a lady that came in when we had Sumatran rhinos, actually. I'm just remembering this. And she did some recordings at some different frequencies. But I'm sure by now, that was many years ago.
There's gotta be.
Yeah, it would be really cool. How much do they talk to each other?
Yeah.
How often?
Yeah, that'd be great information to get. Is Kavua, is she comfortable with you all sharing space with the calf right now, or is she protective of the calf space?
No, she's not. She's not protective of that. I think we have a pretty good relationship. in a good bond. And, you know, she's like, oh, you're scratching me and giving me food or just hanging out. Okay.
Like she has such a good positive association with her keeper staff that
I've not
she's
had
just
any
okay with
issues.
it.
I mean, you always want to be really careful in the beginning because who knows? Maybe from this calf to the next calf, she may change her mind how she feels about a situation. So you always kind of want to, because they are wild animals, and you just never know, and be really respectful of that and their what they need. But just slowly kind of going in there and reading her behavior, which I don't have it completely down, because being completely in the mind of an okapi, I think will always elude me, you know, completely. But most of the time, I think I have a good idea how she's feeling about a certain situation, and she's been fine with it. Him, not so much yet, but I'm gonna win him over.
Give him time.
Everyone since, you know, her included, and the previous little ones, you know, we get there eventually.
Yes. Can you tell us what they eat? And is that what they'll be doing most of the day, is going off and foraging?
Mm-hmm. Sure. I mean, you know, here at the zoo or in the Congo, they would be just all day walking and munching. Walking and munching. That's what they do. So if you are out front and looking at the habitat, you'll see the little lanes. You know, she has her little lanes that they go, and that's what they would do in the wild as well. And so here, they eat a high quality alfalfa, which is a legume, not a grass hay. As much browse as we can possibly do, and our browse program is growing exponentially and getting better and better every year. So we offer frozen browse that we've stored, and also to supplement, we get fresh browse from Florida on a weekly basis. So yeah, she'll munch on that stuff all day. Other concentrates, you know, grain, just to make sure that they have a complete diet. We have of course, a nutritionist on the payroll, and she makes sure that those diets are complete and everything they need. Plus, you know, a few treats to
to build that relationship.
Yeah,
right?
Exactly.
Do the okapi have any browse that specifically are their favorites that you can tell, or any that they dislike? I'm always curious when we give the giraffe a lot of browse as well. I'm always curious to see what the giraffe do and don't like.
Oh yeah, so they definitely have their preferences, and their individual preferences. So Kaloro and other calves in the past, and Kavua, they have liked or disliked different things. The same with the produce. They have likes and dislikes that are very individual to them, and just figuring that out, and the best motivators. Like, you know, maybe you like Reese cups and you like M&Ms.
Guilty as charged.
Both good, but one's a little better in your opinion.
Yeah. So here, talking about their favorite browse, do they have any favorites that, like, you know, they like or don't like?
So, actually we're tracking all that right now. So, we have a new browse coordinator, which is super awesome, and is going to grow our program even more. So we've been notating all these things to make sure that species and individuals are getting all the best things that they like, and using the browse in the best ways all across the zoo. So Kavua, her favorite, probably with the Florida browse, the fresh stuff, would be, it's a type of ficus, and it's called Elastica.
Oh yeah, the giraffe like the Elastica as well.
Yeah. That's probably her favorite. Yeah, there's a couple different ficus varieties that she really likes. And then the frozen browse, she really loves hackberry.
Okay, I think that's a popular one around here too.
Yeah.
And mulberry.
Yeah, mulberry not so much.
Really?
I don't know
Okay.
what her deal is with mulberry lately, but the bongo love it, so nothing goes to waste. And then the rhinos eat all the sticks that are left. So, you know.
No waste around here.
No.
You said the calf isn't eating any solids yet. About when will that happen? Do you know?
Yeah, well, he'll start to do that here soon. So we got to have that first poop.
Okay.
Right, so you don't want to pack too many things in there.
Just milk right now.
Milk, and he may be getting little bits of things. I know he is, but actively eating things, it's going to be another month.
Do you know how long they typically nurse?
Sometimes as long as you allow them.
Yeah. Friends is still nursing as of yesterday.
As long as they have access. So it just kind of depends on what your plan is. So since they're a species that has a SSP, he will probably have a recommendation to go elsewhere into a breeding program. So we'll just have to see what that looks like to have the best welfare for mom and calf in that weaning period, and how soon he will go to another zoo and be a part of their program, and what the social structure looks there. So there's a lot that goes into kind of deciding when and how to do that.
Do you know in the wild what they would normally do? Like, they're solitary animals, so do you know how long the calf would typically stay with their mother?
Not more than a year.
Okay.
And maybe loosely around after 9 months.
Okay.
Or, so there is research in that area, but they are such a tough species.
I was wondering,
they are so solitary, and they're in the DRC.
Yeah.
It's a very difficult place to do any research.
Right.
Yeah.
Historically, has been a super war-torn, just difficult to navigate. You have 2 rainy seasons, and, it's like, how does anything travel through these forests? And certainly not a, little person.
Goes on to another question. I was wondering, do you know, or do they know, researchers know numbers, like how many are left in the wild?
They're all over the place.
I was going to say, it has to be hard to know, right?
Yeah, estimates are all over the place. We do know that numbers are going down for the places that can be, researched, and there are patrols.
Okay.
And where they do put the camera traps. Yeah, the patrol guards would check those and go through, the different protected areas. So, that's where they're going to loosely get some numbers, but, more broad than that, it's kind of a guess.
Yeah. What are like the low estimate guesses? Do you know?
In the upper single thousands.
Okay. So less than 10,000 likely.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
they are listed as endangered, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So I know that you do a lot of training here with them. Can you tell us what you're doing and how it's helpful for them? I think it's come, I don't know about for you specifically, but giraffe training has come a long way just in the last 10 years that I've, been here. So I don't know if you've always done okapi training the last 15 years or so that you've been working with them.
Yeah, so not that whole time. So, training and conditioning for certain behaviors has definitely been an evolution in zoos and how we manage all the different species of animals. So it feels like hoofstock or ungulates, things with hooves, have been a newer addition to that space. So when I first started, almost 20 years ago, that just wasn't a thing. We didn't, okapi were kind of treated like glass. You didn't look at them wrong or, talk too loudly around them or, anything. So it's definitely been an evolution to get to where we are now. So we've gone from that style of management into a more active management, individual management, to be able to take super good care of them. So to be able to do those basic things like get blood, voluntary blood draw.
So necessary. It makes it so helpful if you don't have to anesthetize an animal to get blood on them.
Yeah, we go to the doctor every year and get our numbers checked and make sure we're, where we need to be. So why shouldn't we be doing that for all of our animals? So it's really exciting that we're to that point now, and and voluntary as well.
That's amazing.
So not needing to go through something that might be stressful to something. Well, here's lots of treats, and by the way, that's a little poke, and thank you very much.
Yes. Do you do your blood draws from the neck?
We do.
Okay.
So yeah, from the jugular vein, and yeah, it's been great, and you can get so much information,
right,
and to know how their health is. Something else super important for anything that has hooves is taking care of those hooves.
Mm-hmm.
So that again has been a huge evolution from, okay, well, it is what it is, to we're actively managing their feet. We know what to look for. A couple of us have been through training that's specific to that. And now have that skill set and are able to read the tissue of these animals and be able to trim them appropriately, that they're not going to have issues, not going to have not just issues with their feet, but up the leg, into all the different joints. That's going to give them longevity.
Do you guys do x-rays with them?
We haven't yet.
Okay.
So as the evolution continues, just talking to vet staff about that recently, actually.
So I know they can give a lot of information.
Yeah, so Giraffe has been, Teresa over there has been doing amazing work with the giraffe herd, and all you guys. And so we're gonna go that route too. We haven't seen any issues with them. But just having the information, our adult female is super tractable, as we talked about before, so why not?
Yeah.
Get more information, see if there are any bony changes, or, sometimes that can give you information that you do your trim differently.
Right.
Oh.
So, you don't want to trim the sole too shallow in a spot if there's any kind of rotation or things like that. So the more information, the better, to allow us to take better care of them.
Yeah, it's always good to have that kind of information and data available while an animal is healthy and doing fine. And then maybe down the road, if she does start to have issues, you can compare the images from then to what we have now.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's always useful. What are their favorite treats that they're getting during these training sessions? Like, what do you tempt them during their blood draw?
Okay, so I use different things for different behaviors.
Okay.
Not different individuals, different behaviors.
Yeah,
Okay.
and individuals. So, it's very tailored. They all have their things. So, with Kavua, specifically, for blood draw training, a little bit of produce. So what she enjoys, because we've gone through food trials, and you have to do it every once in a while because your tastes change as you get older, as I maybe know. So, we've done, right now she likes yellow squash.
Okay.
She likes sweet potato, carrot, and she just loves greens. But I can't use those for blood draw training.
Why not?
Not the greens. She spits them out. I don't know. So I don't.
Well, I thought you were going to say the way she eats out of a bucket or out of my hand or something. No, it's just that interesting.
No, she just. And then I have to add in some banana cookies.
Oh.
So it's just a little biscuit that's formulated for herbivores. It's for leaf-eating animals, and it has a banana flavor, maybe a little sweet. And our nutritionist says it's okay. So we add a little bit of that in there, just to sweeten the deal, legit. And then, that's what does it for her. That's what keeps her.
I think it's interesting. You are right there next to her. There isn't a barrier between her when you're doing your training, right? With the giraffe, we have to be careful, and while we don't think they would want to hurt us on purpose, they are gigantic and can kick extremely hard and kill a lion with their kick. But you have a really strong relationship, and you're able to go in and work with her, just kind of like I'm sure farriers do with horses. People could imagine it's similar to that. You can go in and pick up her legs and look at her hooves and work on them right next to her, which
absolutely.
I think that's really neat.
The blood draw training is in with her as well. There's no barriers during that. I mean, she is over 700 pounds, so I mean, she, there's always that risk that you accept, and but also working with her for so long and picking up on the cues when it's like, she's not, and there's been days she's not feeling this today. This isn't happening.
Leave her alone today.
Right. So Mama has her ways, and that's fine.
Yeah.
And she calls the shots. So, but for the most part, no issues. She just really loves her treats. I have to put some things in her little trough to slow her down. Okay. Kind of like what you would do at home with dogs that eat too fast.
Oh, yeah.
Gobble it up, and you have to give them those little puzzle...
Like slow feeder type.
Yep. I have to do that with her, too. It's more in the form of wiffle balls.
Okay, and it just works around them.
Yeah, exactly. To slow her down a bit. And then, so that's for blood draw training. And then for hoof work, she's still eating out of her trough and everything, but she likes the greens. We can do the greens
so fun.
And the produce that I mentioned, and then we top it off with some peanuts.
Oh, wow.
Okay.
Yeah, shell on.
Okay, good to know.
Yeah.
That's so funny that she has different things like for each behavior.
That's awesome.
She does. She does.
Yeah. And the fact that you guys are able to share space with, like you said, a 700-pound animal, like that's such a credit to you and your team and the work you've done throughout the years on building that relationship and establishing the program. Because, like Jenna had kind of mentioned, like it's insane to me that this wasn't really a thing 10 or 12 years ago even. This hoof work especially has been really prominent the last few years. So props to you guys. I just want to give you a shout out for that. 'Cause that's amazing.
Yeah, we have a great team now with one of our vets being through the training too. Has just been a great support. And Teresa up at Giraffe, she does awesome work up there with the giraffe herd. So yeah, it's super cool, and having that little group, little hoofers.
Yeah, I think she just left to go work with some goats too.
So I had to
did
not.
we overlook you? Oh no, we're so sorry.
I had to not join in the goat fund to come here today, but that's okay.
But we feel extra lucky. I hope all you listeners feel extra lucky too, because we're taking away from goat time from Renee.
It's really a zen moment.
But it is cool. You guys are like basically a hoof care team here at the zoo that can help out with any issues around the zoo of animals that have hooves.
Yeah.
So
one thing we haven't touched on with the okapi yet that I did want to hear about was any enrichment that they do, like what the enrichment program kind of looks like for them, if they have any favorite items. It sounds like each individual is so different. Each individual probably has some preferences for enrichment as well.
Browse, and more browse is definitely the way to go. So I try really hard with them to, in everything that we care for, looking at the natural history of each species. So it can look very different. And like you said, it can be different for individual once we've kind of looked at those things. So these guys, what they need and want to do is move and browse. So we're taking steps and we're taking a leaf. And we're taking steps and we're taking a leaf. So we can't always fulfill every, 100% of that need with the browse that we have on hand. Someday maybe we'll get there. I don't know. I mean, nutritionally, they're awesome. They're doing great, all that. We're meeting all those needs. But the behavioral need is what we want to meet with that enrichment piece. So, super weird. You might see, if you go past the habitat, and there's tons of these inside the barn, freezer flaps.
Oh, yes.
Oh, yeah.
So, it was just accidental, really, how that came about. You put freezer flaps in doorways to keep the cool out, or the heat out, or whatever, or heat in. So, she seemed to really like them. Okapi are very orally fixated.
Okay.
So if she doesn't have so even if she has plenty of browse to choose from, she still enjoys these freezer flaps. So what she'll do, she just they're like little curtains that we've made, and they hang down, sort of like branches, and she just likes to chew on them.
Well, from what I know about giraffe is they have to produce enough saliva to help break down all of their food, and okapi are related to giraffe, and she's eating the same thing. So, and maybe it's just helping her with digestion.
Sure. Or she just likes something all the time. So, yeah, I mean, obviously she doesn't ingest these things. That wouldn't be safe. But it's just one of those things that meets that need, that behavioral need. And she just really enjoys having that at her disposal at all times. And like I said, even when she has plenty of browse and other food items, she still enjoys these freezer flaps. There's usually no like scent or flavorings or anything like that on them. She just, I kind of liken it to, maybe I shouldn't say this, but I kind of liken it to an ex-smoker.
Okay.
I don't know. You have that oral fixation. You gotta, okay, I need a hard candy, or I need, to twirl a pencil in my hand or whatever. So, I don't know. Everybody has their vice,
definitely.
For okapi, it's freezer flaps.
Yeah. That's so funny, because I always kind of thought they must have been there for the sensation of feeling like in the jungle, like covered, and, like more...
Yeah, it's secondary.
Just hanging.
Yeah.
Okay.
Secondary.
Like for a hide almost.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I wasn't describing what I was thinking. Was there anything else we missed about okapi that you want to make sure everyone knows, or even about these individuals?
Well, I don't know. They're like the best hoofer out there. So
if you don't know what they look like, I think everyone should look it up.
Yeah. And when can visitors who come to the zoo expect to potentially see the new calf out on habitat?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Makonzi should. He'll at least start having access. Once we get into the spring, we have some stable weather, and a lot of hoof stock, including okapi, for the first few months of their life, they can't thermoregulate, so they can't control their own body temperature. So they're like a reptile, So if they were exposed to cooler temperatures, then that could be a negative thing. So we don't do that. So we know people really want to see these cute little ones and see them out there running around. But we'll wait for, some nice 70s to be pretty consistent.
Okay.
So
it's pretty warm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then, and as he ages, we can... have a little bit different temperature restraints. For her, I mean, she's getting out most days. So since they nest
he just
so
stays
well,
in.
he stays in there, and then mom can go out and play
nice.
and do her thing, and all the stuff that she needs to do, and kind of like her alone time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then she can come back in and be
check on the baby and see how everything's
super
going.
good. Yeah. So she'll see her out there at 50.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome. Springtime. I'm looking forward to it. I can't wait to go over and see that baby out on habitat.
Yes.
It's always fun. Renee, I do have some trivia for you.
Oh, no.
If you're up for it. Some okapi trivia.
Do I have a choice?
It's a pretty quick one today. It's 3 questions. And actually, 2 of these questions were already answered.
Oh, dear. Now it's on me. Did I listen?
So now it's
pressure.
how well did Jenna pay attention? We're about to find out. This first question we already answered, and I triple checked this when I was doing research, because I was like, this can't be true. I just refuse to believe it. So I'm so glad that you also
I think I know where we're going here.
How long until a newborn okapi defecates?
About 2.5 months.
Yeah, 2 to 3 months.
2 to 3 months.
Yeah. Anywhere between 6 to 10 weeks is
Wow.
what I found.
That's
so
crazy.
That is just it doesn't make sense to me how the baby is just nursing and doesn't defecate for
all by
2 months.
Design. Absorbed completely. Of course, he urinates.
Yeah.
But yeah, it sits there for a while, and it's super weird when it comes out.
Yeah, I bet.
Come on, they've been backed up for having defecated in 2 months. Yeah, and like Renee mentioned earlier, that's to try and help the calf stay undetected by predators, right?
Exactly.
So that there's nothing coming around sniffing.
Yep.
You said leopards would be probably their biggest predator in the wild.
Yeah, only natural predators.
Okay.
Wow.
Yeah, leopards, and unfortunately probably humans too, but we know how that goes, unfortunately. All right, question number 2. True or false here? Male and female okapis both have ossicones.
False.
False. You got it. False.
Just the males.
Just the males, which is different than giraffes. In giraffes, we're used to seeing the males and the females with ossicones. Renee, I was curious, do you know if there's a reason? I couldn't find anything in my research, like a potential reason behind that scientifically. I have no idea.
I mean, I would just, I don't know for sure. My assumption would be just, again, by design. The male's going to want to fight for those ladies.
Yeah.
And they're few and far between. He's got to go out and find them.
Do okapis, just like giraffes, do they go through like the necking behavior where they'll kind of headbutt each other? Do males do that?
Yeah.
Okay.
It can be very similar. Just on a, a smaller version.
Yeah, like half the size of the neck, right?
Yeah. Jungle version.
Yeah.
All right, we're 2 for 2 here. We're looking strong right now.
Yes.
Good job, Jenna.
Question number 3, last one here. So okapis were obviously always known by the native people of Africa and some of the indigenous people, but when were okapis discovered by Western society, by Europeans? Do you know what year it was when Europeans discovered okapis?
No, and I can't
Jenna
do
loves
years. I'm always off by like 4 million years.
Wow.
It wasn't 4 million years ago, Jenna. I'll give you that hint.
1897.
1897. Renee?
So I'm not sure what you have officially on there.
I've got 2 different numbers, actually.
Mm-hmm.
I've got 2 different numbers.
Yeah. So, I mean, there was discovery made, and then, when the official, we have a specimen, all that goes down and it was named. So, you're right there, Jenna.
That would be a first.
Yeah, you're right there. So you're literally on the money, right in between the 2 numbers. So they were kind of discovered, quote unquote discovered by Europeans in the 1880s. But a lot of people, 1880. Did I say 1980s? No. Whatever I said, it was the 1880s. It's 100 years.
I mean, there was big hair and neon. I don't know.
Yeah, in the 1880s. So they were just quote unquote discovered in the 1880s. And a lot of Europeans didn't believe. They were found by Henry Stanley, and people across Europe didn't believe him. They thought he made this animal up. It was too wild. It couldn't have been real. So in 1901, a guy named Harry Johnston was the one that actually found the first scientific specimen. In 1901 was when it was described by science. So it's crazy to think that an animal that
and
large
then you get to
and
name it
charismatic.
after yourself. So, next time you discover a species, Jenna, you
That's the scientific name. That's the scientific name.
Johnstoney, yeah.
Johnstoney,
Okay, that's a goal of mine.
Yeah.
to discover
Your
a
legacy.
species. Yes.
Crazy. Yeah. Apparently, in that time period, it was called the African unicorn because they didn't even believe that it was real. So, yeah.
I like it.
Wow.
Crazy.
I like it.
Yeah. Jenna, you were spot on today.
Wow,
Killing
that's the best I might have
We're
ever done
8 for
with
3.
years.
Round of applause.
Props to both of you guys today. That's awesome. Well, do we have anything else for Renee while we got her here?
We just have our final question, Renee. What can I do?
What can I
How
do?
can I be a better steward of the earth?
Well, I think that's different for everyone, Jenna. That's a deep question. But for me and my family, one of the things that I really enjoy as a hobby is foraging.
I think that's an awesome hobby. I don't know anyone else with that hobby.
There's a couple around the zoo.
Well, I believe it. I didn't know about it, or I don't know them.
Yeah.
Yeah, will you tell us a little bit about it? Yeah.
Okay, so foraging, so there's, to get started, because nobody needs to die. So you're going out and you're looking for things that are edible, that are right in your front yard
Sounds
or backyard.
a little risky.
I mean, okay, so there are so many, social media, all right? So you can become a brain surgeon from YouTube, right? So you can learn some foraging skills. And there's 4As out there that you can go with somebody that really knows what they're doing.
Okay.
And they can point things out so you can see it with your own eyes, feel it, touch it, all those things. There's Facebook groups, all of that. There's books, tons of books. And if you really start looking, you'll find all sorts of plants that grow all around us that have either medicinal properties or are just yummy to eat.
Yeah.
And anybody can get started with it super easy, and it's super fun for kids. And you just have to, kind of make sure that, like what I do with my kids, because my 2 younger are special needs, so I make extra sure that they bring anything to me so I can double check what they're having. But they're super simple, easy ones that no worries whatsoever. So you've got your good old dandelions.
Okay. I could do that one.
Yeah. I can get dandelions.
Yeah. You got the flower, the greens, early greens, because when they're older dandelions, they're yucky.
Okay.
And very bitter. The root is even a coffee substitute if you're really hard up.
I've not heard that before. Interesting.
Are you making tea, or what are you doing with dandelions specifically?
I don't personally dig up dandelion roots, but I know I could if I needed to.
Yes.
So knowledge is power, right?
That's right.
So, spring's coming, right?
Uh-huh.
So some of the early things you can be looking for, dandelions will come a little bit later, but those really pretty violets that come up, those little purple violets in the yard. Flowers edible. The redbud trees, the little flowers that come on, completely edible and sweet. Forsythia, those pretty yellow flowers that come out on, like people have them in hedges, and then the leaves will come out later. Edible. Chickweed is, sort of like it's a green. It's one of the first greens that come out, and it tastes really good, and it's packed full of nutrients. And, a lot of the weeds that we have here, they were actually food items that were brought. So these were really early things that would grow well and sustained early settlers that we've just forgotten about.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And then we spray them with weed killer.
Right.
So, which I don't do at my house because we forage in our yard, in those tall chunks of annoying grass that smell like onion.
Oh, yeah.
Those are chives.
Yeah.
So get out and, trim some, put them on your salads, put those pretty flowers on your salads. It's a cool thing to do. If you're doing it in your yard, you're going to see a transformation. Just stop spraying stuff. The bees will be there. The deer will be there because it's not monoculture. Mm-hmm. We've gotten into a monoculture yard sort of thing, just grass.
Yeah.
It's not the way it's meant to be. You have all these different things going on, and it's so much better for the wildlife. It's better for us. Mm-hmm. There's so many benefits to all that. So, yeah, and it's just fun.
That's a unique one. I love it. You learn more about wildlife around you because then you start to identify them and get out in nature, and you can feed yourself.
You can feed yourself. Yes.
Yeah, that's very cool.
I know. I'm all in for this. I've never taken part in foraging, and now I'm like, I'm gonna go do some research at home. This sounds awesome.
Well, thank you so much for coming and telling us about the okapi.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Yeah, sorry you had to miss the goat hoof trim.
I know. Well, it will come again. Yes. We do it all the time. So lots of goats up there and lots of little feet that need to be taken care of. But they're in good hands with Teresa.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah, thanks to you and your whole team for all the great work you do with not just the okapi, but all your animals over at the Vel. Yeah. Definitely love to see it. I'm excited. I'm waiting for springtime, waiting for the baby to get out on the habitat. I'm excited to see it.
Awesome.
All right. Thanks, everyone. Have a great day.
Until next time.